I've used a lot of meal services, but Hungry Root truly stands out because it's built around the way real families live and eat. They don't just send meal kits. They personalize your grocery cart and meal plan based on your preferences and dietary goals. All I had to do was take a short quiz, and right away, their smart cart technology started building a cart that fit how we eat. Now, each week feels easier, like someone else is doing the thinking for me. I've been focused on cleaner eating lately, and I love that Hungry Root keeps out over 200 additives, including things like high fructose corn syrup and artificial sweeteners. Their meats are hormone and antibiotic free, and the produce options include organic and non GMO picks. They also stock brands I already trust, like Oatly, Vital Farms, and Harmless Harvest. One of our favorite meals has been the teriyaki salmon with green beans, light, flavorful, and done in 12 minutes flat. Plus, I've noticed we waste less food, spend less time shopping, and even save money by skipping those impulse grocery buys. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg and use code Dr. Meg. That's hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg. Code Dr. Meg to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg. Code Dr. Meg.
On today's episode of Parenting Great Kids.
That's another big misconception that we start the college list with looking at colleges. And I say reverse that and start with your teen. What is their why for going to college?
Welcome to Parenting Great Kids. Here's your host, Dr. Meg Meeker.
For many parents, navigating their child's transition into college is a source of stress, not only emotionally, but also financially. Well, today, we're joined by Dr. Pamela Ellis. She's known as the Education Doctor. She's helped over 30,000 families find the right college fit while securing an average of $75,000 in scholarships per student.
Thank you, Dr. Meg. I am really excited to be here.
Well, this is going to be a great conversation because, many parents, depending upon where you live in the country and so forth, I've seen some parents start thinking about their kids' college in 5th and 6th grade. Because what they want to do is they want to get, elementary school leading to the right high school, leading to the right college. And, particularly in New England, where I grew up, it's a pressure cooker. And I remember being kind of stressed, and that was many years ago. And I think it's a lot more stressful for parents today. Well, you've helped thousands of families navigate the college process. What are the biggest misconceptions parents have about admissions and scholarships?
Oh, my goodness. Probably one of the biggest misconceptions is that there is no money out there.
Yeah.
And not being aware that kids can start applying for scholarships as early as age 13. They don't have to wait until senior year. And those are external scholarships that will go to whatever college they attend. The second misconception is about just where the biggest dollars for college are. And it actually are their monies directly from the college. And when I talk about, this success that we've had with our students, especially when you talk about a number as big as, an average of 75,000, that's monies directly from the colleges.
Wow.
And what that's all about is finding and having on your teen's list those colleges that are a right fit. And I've found that when they are the right fit, that makes all the difference from an admission standpoint, scholarships, as well as them being in a place where they will thrive. And so many times we think about the college list based on the brand name or the location. And neither of those factors play a role especially in our kids thriving while they're in college.
I'm glad that you brought money up right at the front, because what I hear from parents is when I ask kids, which usually is junior year in high school, so what are your plans after high school? Are you applying to colleges? You can just see the angst on parents' faces and even the students. I'd love to, but how am I going to afford it? And where do I start? So, when you talk about a college being a right fit, can you dig into that a little bit more explicitly? How does a student find the right fit?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing is that it always starts with the students. And, that's another big misconception, that we start the college list with looking at colleges. And I say reverse that and start with your teen. What is their why for going to college, first off? Because that's going to make a difference in terms of their engagement through high school and their college choices. The fit piece, the way we define that is we have a framework that looks at 5 factors. And these are 5 factors for the teen that we then apply to the colleges. And I'll go through them briefly. The first factor of fit is academic. So, what are they interested in learning and how do they learn best? The second one is social. How do they make friends and find their community? The third factor is financial. What is it going to take for college to be affordable for your family? The fourth factor is vocational. What is it that they're interested in doing after college? And then the fifth factor is cultural. How are they perhaps different than the majority of students on that campus? And how will that identity be supported while they're in college? And so thinking about those 5 factors for the teen first, then you apply it to the colleges. And one of the things that you will see in doing it that way is that there are dozens of colleges that are a great fit for your teen. And that's the exciting part about it. And then from there, it's researching those colleges to aligned with those things that are a fit for you, and you'll have some amazing choices.
I love it. I have never heard anyone who took or takes that perspective. Start with a student first.
Yes.
And have the college fit the student's needs, rather than have a teenager make a list of colleges and names and make them fit into that.
Right.
Because a lot of kids don't fit into the University of Michigan or Michigan State or Yale, or, a lot of them would do a lot better in a smaller college. So I love the idea of teaching parents to start with the kid and then see what college works for them. Now, I assume if a parent finds a college that works well for a student, it would be easier for them to find money, because there are more places for or more programs within the college that will fit the child that are going to give them money. Is that true?
Yes, and it's all aligned with those 5 factors. So, for example, so I went to Stanford undergrad and I did my doctoral work there. And a lot of times students will aspire to go to Stanford. They'll say that's their dream college. And the first thing they'll say is they want to major in business there. Well, Stanford doesn't even have a business program undergraduate. So, it's like, so that tells me that you probably haven't looked at it.
Yeah.
The thing about it is when you look at those 5 factors and think about them for yourself and then how they apply to the colleges also know what's a fit for them. And so if you're writing an essay talking about, your dream about going to this college because it's so beautiful and you want to major in business undergrad, they're going to know right away you're not talking to them.
Right.
You're not talking to them. And so they're going to give money and support the students that will contribute to that campus. And so matching it up by fit is where we found those hidden gems that students may not have considered, but find out that, wow, this is a great college for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the colleges recognize that, wow, this student knows us and we want them here because they can contribute.
That's wonderful. Now, I'm sure you've seen a lot of kids go off to small colleges that maybe nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah.
Many parents and kids believe if I don't go to these big name schools, it's over. I'm not going to succeed in life. Now, I'm just hearing kids talk. And growing up in New England, I kind of felt that pressure. You had to go to one of these top 10 schools or else.
Yeah.
Is that true?
It's not true at all. And so many times, I shouldn't say so many times, but what has happened is students are so focused on that college and they end up not getting in, or they end up not getting any money there, or if they end up still going, they find that it's not quite what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And those colleges still have some students that may not be retained. Or they end up, coming back later after stopping out. And so it's not always a guarantee. And there are, again, so many great colleges out there. And it's not always that brand name that you thought was so great because it was a beautiful campus, or because you kept hearing about it, or because your mom or dad went there.
Yeah.
It's about you and what's a great fit for you and your success and where you can thrive. That's the key thing, is you want to thrive when you're in college.
Because if you're not thriving, you can't study well, you can't participate in a lot of things.
Right.
How much does parents' expectations play in the college application process for their kids?
It plays a big part in a lot of kids' process, unfortunately. And in our work, what we're doing is we're partnering with parents. And I feel like one of the key things that I'm partnering with parents on is coaching them on how to let go. So many times parents are used to being in charge in their professional life and used to telling their kid what to do.
Bossy.
Yes.
We're just bossy.
We are.
Yeah.
And the first thing I say is your kid owns the process. They own the process. And that is a huge mindset shift, because you're looking at your kid and you're thinking like, man, they're disorganized. They don't clean up after themselves, yada, yada. And they're going to own this process. And I say, yes, they own the process. And just letting them do what their role is makes such a difference in less stress in the process, and teens learning the skills that they're going to be using for the rest of their lives, skills like self-advocacy or independence, critical thinking, and decision making. And so those are the things that they can learn in that process that will support them throughout the rest of their lives. And if we can let go and show them that we trust them, we can actually enjoy the teen years, enjoy that time before they go away to college. And when they do, have comfort in knowing that they're going to be okay. They're going to know how to self-advocate. They're going to know how to make friends. And some basic things like that is, what we want to instill before they go away. So, in a place when they're in a safe environment to explore and be comfortable with those skills. Yeah, it's tough because I have to tell you, even with the work that I do, when my kids were preparing, I mean, my oldest, he he was just he's a great kid, but I was just like, man, he's gonna own it. I'm just like, I'm telling everybody else that, so gotta let him indeed own the process. And one quick story, when he was applying, he just really didn't want to be bothered with the process.
Mhm.
So he just applied to one school. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
He applied to one school, and turns out, around December 15th, he learns that he's been deferred. Oh my goodness. Then it became a mad scramble. So we had to cancel our New Year's Eve plans, and I love New Year's Eve. We had to cancel our plan because he was still working on applications
Ah.
and working until the 11th hour to get them submitted. So all that time he had to work on essays, he didn't do anything. He was not going to apply to any more colleges because he was set.
Oh, did you just want to pull your hair out? I mean,
Absolutely.
oh,
And it would have been so tempting to get in there and just do it myself,
yes.
And one of my colleagues actually had a situation where a mom ended up signing her son's common application and submitting it in her name. You know,
Mm. Oh my. Oh my. But I could see parents doing that
yeah,
because what I see
yeah,
parents are so anxious about this whole
yeah,
process,
yeah,
and they're dealing with a kid who's still a kid, at
exactly.
17, 18, you're not 25. And I will say too, in my experience, we have 3 daughters and our youngest is a son. And I've seen this with a lot of boys in my
Uh-huh.
practice. Boys aren't they're a little slow in the motivation area, and sometimes it doesn't come until they're 19 or 20. And
Right.
this was true with our son. Our girls were self-starters, no big deal.
Hmm.
If anything, I had to kind of rein him in. But my son, I just felt like I kept trying to light fires under him. I remember offering to pay him to, to study harder senior year. Well, anyway, he went off to college. And about sophomore year in college, he
Uh-huh.
decided he didn't like the college he was in. He was going to switch.
Yeah.
He made a mistake. And I'll never forget the day he called me. It was about junior year in college.
Uh-huh.
And he said, Mom, I'm ready. And I said, You ready for what? And he said, I'm ready to study. And from then on, he flew. But what I wanted to hear is, I'm ready when he was 18.
Exactly.
But he didn't come.
Exactly.
And I was I was pulling my hair out. But and so many parents will
Yeah.
say to me, how do I motivate my 16, 17-year-old
Yeah.
son? And I feel like
Hmm.
you have to just wait.
Right.
And your story is a beautiful example of that, but
Hmm.
how hard that is for
It
parents.
is.
So during this whole process, it sounds like you have to keep kids calm and you have to keep parents calm,
Right.
because you've got some kids who are overperformers, and then you've got
Hmm.
parents who are pushing their kids.
Yeah.
So that must be a difficult process for you.
It really is. And if you hadn't noticed, you can tell by the gray hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is because I, one of the things that you probably know so well as many of us do is that kids hear things differently from their parents than they do from a third party.
Yeah.
And so in my role, in my team's role as coaches and mentors to the students that we work with, we can be working with them and they're fine. And we're trying to build their confidence and supporting them, giving them the tools that they need. And parents are stressed out, maybe like in the recent conversation I had with the family about their junior's college list, the kid had not talked to his parents about the list, the college list. And so in this family meeting, it was, sharing with them, like, he's been doing some great research. He really knows these colleges. And here are the colleges that, he's researched, that he's decided will be on his list. And here are the colleges that he researched and he decided no, he didn't want them on his list. And so we went through that. And I think they were surprised because, again, they see him a little bit differently at home. And he actually does the research when we're working on essays. He's reading aloud,
Wow.
but he's
Yeah.
probably not doing that at home with his
No,
parents.
exactly.
So it's a different experience. And so it's also making sure that the parents do not take over.
Yeah.
And even with something as simple as the campus visits, we want, we'll coach the student and we'll do it with them in our meetings. So they're working meetings. No, we want the students to RSVP for the visit. Because when they RSVP for the visit, in some cases, that becomes their login for their application. And
Right.
so, and sometimes parents will get in there, they start planning the visits out and mapping them out. And it's just like, let your kid do that. And in fact, we're
Ooh.
going to have a meeting next week and we'll go through that. And I actually send the kids a paper map to see where the colleges are. So when we're starting to talk about campus visits, it's like, oh, we're going to be driving in that area and there's this college nearby. And it's like, let's look at, I want you to research it, to see if that's a fit. And then maybe it does make sense to also visit that college. And so we're talking about it in a pretty intentional way to help them with decision-making skills and logistics, all of those kinds of things. And sometimes parents, may get worried and take that away from them. And I go back to your teen owns the process for guiding, supporting them, giving them the tools, and that will calm it. Because if the parents are stressed out, the kids are going to be stressed out.
Oh, yeah.
And it comes from the parents in so many ways.
Right.
And so when they come in a meeting and they're stressed out about something, we do a gratitude practice at the start to just kind of usher in a different moment that we're together. And when they're stressed out about something, it's usually because their parents are stressing them about it. Like, let me see your essays. It's like,
Right.
no, I just say, let them offer to let you read the essay.
Some days, parenting feels like chasing moments that never quite land. You ask a question, they shrug. You try again, they look at their screen. And you wonder, why is this so hard? That's why I love FamGabs. It's a 70-card deck created by a child therapist who spent 16 years working directly with families, helping parents and kids break through the awkward one-word answers and really connect. The questions are open-ended, thoughtfully chosen, and designed to get your child talking and keep the conversation going. There are even bonus cards just for parents to help you build your confidence in your connection toolbox. If you've ever wished for a better way to understand your child or just to have more meaningful conversations as a family, FamGabs is such a gift. Search FamGabs on Amazon and use promo code Dr. Meg Pod during checkout to get 10% off your order. That's FAMGABS on Amazon. Use promo code Dr. Meg Pod and get 10% off your order. You know that moment when your child lights up because something finally clicks? That's what every parent wants, to see their child thrive. But when school just isn't the right fit, that joy can fade. That's why I want to tell you about K-12 Powered Schools. These are tuition-free, accredited online public schools for kindergarten through 12th grade. They're designed to meet your child where they are so they can learn at their own pace, in their own space, and a curriculum that fits their unique learning style. And here's what sets it apart. This isn't homeschooling. You're not the teacher. K-12's state-certified online educators are trained to make lessons interactive and engaging using innovative technology. and your child still gets social experiences, clubs, extracurriculars, even in-person events. K-12 has helped over 3 million families give their kids the tools to thrive, and they've been doing it for more than 25 years. It could be exactly what your child needs. Visit k12.com/Dr. Meg to find a tuition-free K-12 powered school near you and enroll today. That's k12./DRMEG, all caps. You must push a lot of buttons in parents. Because even saying something like that, let your kids decide when they're going to show you their essay. Again, that's right. So talk to us about your gratitude exercise.
Oh,
please.
my. Dr. Meg, during COVID, I actually did a mindfulness certification. And I had actually started it prior to COVID because I saw so much stress in students and a lot of anxiety, and wanted to think about a way that I could support them through that. And during COVID, everything was exacerbated. And I just started setting up more regular check ins with students just to give them a routine and introduce these gratitude practices. And it's really having them calm themselves for a moment and think about the last week and tell me 3 things that you're grateful for.
Wow.
And just in thinking about that, students, will share some things that like, wow, I didn't even know that, and it helps them because gratitude has been shown to reduce stress and build resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the 2 things you need most in the college admissions process. And they do it. And I felt so warmed and honored. One of my students reached out to me over the holidays, and she's a second-year student at University of Southern California. And we were talking. She wanted to catch up and see how I was doing. And she said, "Dr. Pamela, you know something that's really helped me the most?" And I was like, "What is that?" And she said, "It was the gratitude practice. That's the thing that I've relied on the most since I've been in college."
Mm.
And I was like, wow. Because the first time, Dr. Meg, we did that exercise, I could see the look on her face because she's thinking, what is this? And why are you asking me to do this? I explained to her, saying that, gratitude has been shown to reduce stress and build resilience. And those are 2 great things. And I know that in our conversation, some of the things we're talking about may seem stressful, but we're going to start in a place of gratitude where you know that this is a calm environment. And she just gave me that look. And the first time, or 2, it was something like my house. It's like your house. You've had your house for years. That didn't change in the last week, but just really getting her to, pinpoint it and be more specific. And she said that's the thing that she relies on now in college, that gratitude practice.
Isn't that remarkable? A sophomore at USC. I love that because I think that maybe particularly since COVID or, political environment or whatever, there's so much negativity, and parents and kids alike looking at what's going wrong in their lives, around them, and how to fix it, and focusing on all the things that aren't right. A lot of kids, or adults will go to therapy. And of course, one of the things they focus about is, well, what hurt you, what went wrong. But
Mhm.
to talk about what's going right is so
Yeah.
healthy and good for everybody. And so
Yeah.
I love that you incorporate it into this.
Mhm.
And that's a fabulous takeaway. When do you recommend starting to work with students? What age?
By 10th grade.
10th grade. Okay.
Mhm. I
Okay.
do. I do.
hmm And what do you do with the kids and parent, or the child and parent who come to you? They've been thinking about college, and then when it comes down to the 11th hour, the kid goes, I just don't really want to go, and the
Mhm.
parents are upset. Do you encourage them to make them go, or do you? Well, I know your answer to this, or to
Yeah.
say, what, not now. I'm not quite ready. And then what do? How do you help them pivot if you tell them to pivot?
Yeah. We've had these conversations even before we start working together.
hmm
And I really just encourage them to look at other options, to do other exploration. And when students do come in the last hour, that's when it's harder for me to engage, if you will. But one of my families started when their son was in end of ninth grade,
hmm
and it was because he was talking about not going to
hmm
college. And so they wanted him to work in our program to at least discover and to start to think about what he may want to do. Because part of what we do in 10th grade, especially, is career exploration.
hmm
And he definitely, decided that yes, he did want to go to college, and that's what helped. Now, another student that we worked with, his parents didn't think he was really college material, but they've always had a family value that he had to go to college.
hmm
And so with him, he recognized that he wasn't ready to go. And what we did was I had him still apply to just 2 or 3 colleges.
hmm
And the reason I did that, Dr. Meg, is I wanted him to build this confidence that yes, he could do the application process.
Mm.
Because some students are afraid of applying, they're afraid of being rejected.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that's why they don't want to do it.
sure.
And so he did agree to do that. And he actually got quite a bit of money, believe it or not, because he was a C student.
Mm.
But anyway, in the wintertime, what I did was curate a list of gap year programs for him. And they were bridge year programs that would give him a chance to do something different. And it was an option of working. There was a program that provided internships. Another program was a travel program. And that was the one he decided to do. But I worked with him on writing a deferral letter for the college where he decided to go. And they actually said, "Oh, a gap year, you're going to, do XYZ. That's great. And we'll hold your scholarship money till you come back."
Wow.
Yeah, for a whole year. And he would enter with the class the following fall.
Mhm.
Dr. Meg, when I tell you, I reached out to his mom in the fall to have coffee, and she said her son's life had changed.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a different kid, and
Mhm.
he had sent her an email about his experience of milking cows and
Mm.
getting up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, yeah,
And she's
yeah,
just like, this kid.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But just the maturity, the development, the time to build those skills of independence, learn how to connect with others, get outside of his bubble of a community. I mean,
Mm.
all of those things that you want for your child, he was able to experience through that gap year program and to be ready for
Mhm.
college.
I think that story sort of highlights the
issue that I see a lot, and that is that kids feel very intimidated with the process. Not only intimidated with the process, but scared to death that they're going to apply to these colleges and everybody will reject them. And then they will feel stupid. And then they will feel, well, what do I do now? All of my friends are going off to college. Of course, in their minds, they exaggerate. But and now who am I and what can I do? And what I'm hearing from that story is that, you had him go through the process and then he decided a gap year. And then the school came along and said, you are so valuable to us. We want you so much. We will wait for you. And the lesson in that for a young kid is enormous.
Yeah.
And do you find that kids or do they ever say, I'm afraid that I won't get in, I'll fail, and either my parents will be upset or I will feel upset with myself?
They always do. And that's one of the questions we ask in our intake process in our interview. We do one with the student and then a separate one with the parents. And we ask students, what are your concerns or worries about the college admissions process? And that is the number one. I won't get accepted. I'm going to be rejected. That's what they say the most. And the other thing we ask them about is, how important are grades to you? And in a lot of instances, students say that they are important, and it's because of their parents, not wanting to disappoint their parents. And those two questions say so much. They really do.
They do.
And one of the things that we share with them is that what we want to do and what we want for them, we want options for them. And so it's not about, only applying to these one or two schools that have a 0% admissions rate. It's about discovering who you are, building that self-awareness, and thinking about what's a fit for you and applying to a range of colleges where you would be excited to go. Yeah. And I always say, if you have 12 colleges on your list, they should be your number one. Your number one. And that means that if no other college on this list says yes, and there's only this one that does, you're going to be excited to go there.
Wow.
That's what
wonderful.
we want in that list. And that helps allay some of the concerns. And also, too, I feel very strongly that when students are researching the colleges and gaining that knowledge, that supports their confidence in their essays and how they present themselves when they talk about their why for that college. And that supports them in the admissions process as well.
We only have a few minutes left, but I would like you to speak directly to the parent out there, single parent perhaps, who has a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, and they're thinking they would like their child to go to college. Probably every parent wants their child to go to college. Can you give that parent 3 things, first steps they should take, or pearls of wisdom about this whole thing? Because I'm sure if they haven't started the process yet, they're feeling anxious about it. And, you want to allay that anxiety. So what are 3 tips that you would give that parent of a 15, 16-year-old?
That's a really good question. The first thing I would say is starting a conversation with your child, an open conversation where you discuss their why for college, why they want to go, and share with your child why you want them to go, and get an understanding of your why. With that, discussing values as well, I think is important, and having that conversation together as a family about what their values are and what your values are, because you may find that they're not aligned. Yeah. And that can support you from a relationship standpoint, as well as thinking about next steps for them. So that conversation is key. Secondly, would be letting them own that process that they're going to be starting and agreeing that you're going to let them own it. You won't take it over. And it's going to be a process of trusting each other.
Mm-hmm.
And thirdly, thinking about what your teen wants and having them actually outline what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. Those are great questions and tips for any parent for a lot of different things. And they're hard. They're hard because, starting a conversation with your child on something that's very important to them, to their success in life, whatever, and to you, can feel very intimidating. And then giving that control over to them, it takes time, I think, for parents to sort of work that through, because that's a real tough one. So a lot of the lessons that you give through this college preparation and this whole program that you have are in many ways life lessons. I'm sure, it's like that young girl who was at USC and said, the most important thing you taught me that's keeping me going now is gratitude. I mean, that's something that applies to all of us. So I think the work that you're doing really expands far beyond, helping the kids through the college process. It's just great parenting advice. It really is.
Yeah. And one thing that I want all parents to remember and embrace through this process is the relationship with their teen. The relationship with their teen is so important. And that's one of the first things to break down in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps the next step should be, if it's a broken process for real and you're too stressed about it, it's taking up too much time and really having a lot of tension, get help. Get help. And don't be afraid to do that. There are some wonderful, wonderful advisors out there that work independently that can support them with their success. And it does not have to be stressful at all. Mm-hmm. And the relationship is so much more important.
Well, it is. And you'll learn so much about one another. And this, and it's great because I'm sure there are a lot of things that are going to bubble to the surface. Yeah. And you think, wait, maybe we better deal with this before, we work on this. My guest has been Dr. Pamela Ellis. She is known as the education doctor. She is brilliant. How can our listeners learn more about what you do, enroll in your program? What is your website? Where's the best place to find you?
Yes, my website is compasscollegeadvisory.com. And one of the best ways to connect with me is on LinkedIn. It's Dr. Pamela Ellis, DrPamelaEllis. And I'd be happy to send to them our College Confidence Blueprint, which is the roadmap for each year of high school to college, and also a communication guide, which can help break down some of the tension and discomfort that comes with having that college conversation, and one that can support their relationship through this process. And all they have to do is message me with Blueprint 25, and I'll send it over to them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I've learned a lot. Now I know what to do with my grandkids. I can see the mistakes I made with my own kids, but somehow it worked okay. They figured it all out. And so we'd go around too. Well, thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you, Dr. Meg.